morning unfurled like a golden tapestry, a crisp autumn day in early October, where the air held the sharp tang of fallen leaves and the promise of a fleeting escape from the mundane. A gentle breeze whispered through the state forest, rustling the fiery canopy of maples and oaks, their leaves a vibrant mosaic of crimson, amber, and gold. Sunlight pierced the treetops in dappled shafts, casting intricate patterns on the forest floor, where dry leaves crunched rhythmically beneath our boots. I walked alongside a tight-knit group of longtime friends, Ethan, Jake, Liam, Sophia, and her new boyfriend Amir. A reunion born from nostalgia and a longing to reclaim the carefree days of our youth. In our college years at a small liberal arts school in upstate New York, we'd been insatiable explorers, trekking every other weekend to some rugged mountain or another, pitching tents under starlit skies, our spirits unbound by the weight of adulthood. Those trips were our sanctuary, a space where we could shed the pressures of exams and deadlines, replacing them with the primal thrill of nature's embrace. We'd laugh until our sides ached, tell ghost stories around crackling fires, and wake to the symphony of birdsong, feeling invincible in our unity. But time, that relentless thief, had scattered us. Graduation had thrust us into the grind of adulthood, Ethan into a demanding tech startup, Jake into construction management, Liam into a law firm, Sophia into graphic design, and me into freelance journalism. I'd moved to a small apartment in Boston, where the city's hum drowned out the call of the wild, my hiking boots gathering dust in a closet. Responsibilities tethered us to jobs, relationships, and the mundane rhythms of life, eroding the bonds we'd once thought unbreakable. Our group chat, once a flurry of memes and plans, had grown quiet, the occasional message met with delayed replies. It was Ethan who reignited the spark, his text lighting up our screens on a dreary Tuesday evening. "Guys, we need a reunion hike. It's been too long. Let's camp out like the old days." The idea was a lifeline, a chance to reconnect with the people who'd once been my second family. After weeks of juggling schedules, Ethan coordinating around his startup's latest product launch, Sophia navigating a tight deadline, and Jake squeezing in time between site visits, we settled on that glorious Saturday, meeting in a dusty parking lot at the edge of the state forest as the sun crested the eastern hills, its warm rays bathing us in a nostalgic glow. The parking lot was little more than a gravel patch, bordered by a weathered wooden sign that read Greenridge State Forest, Trailhead 7 in faded letters. A rusted trash can sat in one corner, overflowing with crumpled wrappers, and a single picnic table stood splintered and abandoned under a lone pine. But the air was electric with reunion energy as we piled out of our cars, our voices overlapping in a cacophony of greetings. Ethan, still lanky with his wire-rimmed glasses, pulled me into a bear hug, his laughter as infectious as ever. Jake and Liam stood tall and sturdy, their plaid shirts rolled up to the elbows, hiking boots scuffed from years of use, a testament to their unchanged vigor. Sophia emerged from her beat-up hatchback, her long dark hair now a striking pixie cut that framed her animated face, glowing with excitement as she introduced us to Amir, her new boyfriend. His handshake was firm, a grip that hinted at a past marked by resilience, perhaps a few fistfights won through sheer determination. His dark eyes held a quiet intensity, and I wondered what stories lay behind them, what had drawn Sophia to him in the whirlwind of her creative life. We fell into the familiar rhythm of seasoned hikers, unpacking our gear with practiced hands. Backpacks were unzipped, revealing the tools of our trade. Lightweight tents, sleeping bags, a portable stove, dehydrated meals, and first aid kits. Ethan meticulously checked his compass, a habit from our college days when he'd once led us on a 3-hour detour through a swamp. Jake hoisted his pack onto his shoulders, the weight settling with a satisfying thud, while Liam slathered sunscreen across his freckled nose, muttering about a sunburn he'd gotten on a beach trip the previous summer. Sophia adjusted her camera strap. She'd always been the group's unofficial photographer, capturing our adventures in vivid detail, while Amir tied his laces, his movements precise and deliberate. I pulled a water bottle from my pack, taking a long sip, the cool liquid grounding me as I surveyed my friends. It felt good to be with them again, the camaraderie a balm against the passage of time. By the time the morning haze lifted, We were miles deep into the trail, our voices rising and falling with tales of college antics and the absurdities of our early careers. Ethan recounted a disastrous pitch meeting where his projector had failed mid-presentation, leaving him to mime his startup's app to a room of stone-faced investors. Sophia laughed so hard she doubled over, her new haircut bouncing as she described a client who'd insisted on a neon green logo for a funeral home. Jake chimed in with a story about a rookie on his construction crew who'd accidentally demolished a porta-potty. And even Amir, initially reserved, cracked a smile as he shared a tale of a bar fight he'd narrowly escaped in his early 20s. The trail stretched before us, a narrow ribbon of packed dirt winding through towering oaks and pines, their branches forming a cathedral of green overhead. Ferns brushed our legs, and the occasional chipmunk darted across our path, its tiny body a blur of brown against the forest floor. It was a perfect day, the kind that made you believe in the healing power of nature, in the strength of old friendships rekindled. As the sun climbed higher, the terrain grew unforgiving, the path narrowing into rocky rises that tested our legs. The trail steepened, forcing us to scramble over moss-covered boulders and navigate routes that snaked across the ground like nature's tripwires. Sweat beaded on my forehead, my calves burning with each step, a reminder that my body wasn't as conditioned as it had been in college. Grumbles surfaced here and there, a collective acknowledgement that we weren't the sprightly 20-year-olds we'd once been. Ethan, always the optimist, tried to keep spirits high, pointing out a red-tailed hawk soaring overhead, its wings slicing through the sky with effortless grace. But the mood shifted subtly, the physical strain peeling back layers of our earlier exuberance. Amir, more a leisurely walker than a seasoned hiker, lagged behind, pausing often to snap photos with his phone or drink in the views. He'd stop to frame a shot of a gnarled tree trunk, its bark peeling like ancient parchment, or crouch to capture a cluster of mushrooms sprouting from a fallen log, their caps a vibrant orange against the decay. "How much further?" he called out, his voice carrying a mix of curiosity and fatigue as he wiped his brow with the back of his hand. Jake, ever the eager leader, flashed his trademark grin, his eyes alight with the thrill of the challenge. "Just around the corner, I promise." His enthusiasm was infectious, though I couldn't help but wonder if we should have chosen an easier route to ease back into the season. My legs protested with each step, the incline relentless, and I caught Sophia muttering under her breath as she adjusted her pack, her expression a mix of determination and mild annoyance. The forest deepened around us, the trees growing taller, their trunks thicker, as if guarding secrets in their shadowed embrace. The air grew cooler, the sunlight filtering through the canopy in thin, golden threads, casting long shadows that danced across the trail. A faint mist clung to the ground, swirling around our ankles, and the scent of damp earth mingled with the sharp pine that filled our lungs. We pressed forward, the rhythm of our steps a steady beat against the forest's quiet hum, when Jake suddenly raised a hand, his voice cutting through the stillness. "Hold up, folks. I've got to take a piss." With a chuckle, he veered off the trail, disappearing into the dense underbrush to find privacy, his plaid shirt a flash of red against the green before he vanished. The rest of us lingered on the path, sipping water from our bottles and adjusting our packs, the quiet hum of nature filling the space. A woodpecker's rhythmic tapping echoed in the distance, and a squirrel chattered from a nearby branch, its small body twitching with nervous energy. I leaned against a tree, its bark rough against my back, and took a moment to breathe, the forest serenity wrapping around me like a familiar cloak. Sophia fiddled with her camera, zooming in on a spiderweb stretched between two ferns, its delicate threads glistening with dew. Amir stood a few paces away, gazing up at the canopy, his expression unreadable, while Liam stretched his arms overhead, cracking his knuckles with a satisfied grunt. Ethan pulled out a granola bar, tearing into it with the enthusiasm of a man who'd skipped breakfast, crumbs falling onto his shirt as he grinned at me. A minute later, Jake's voice cut through the trees, sharp and urgent. "Hey, check this out." Confusion rippled through us, and with a shared glance, we plunged into the bushes after him, the underbrush snagging at our clothes. I pushed through low branches, their leaves brushing against my face, the scent of sap sharp in my nose, until I emerged into a small clearing where Jake crouched over an object half buried in the mud. It took a moment for my eyes to adjust, the shadows of the clearing playing tricks, but then I saw it. An old digital camera, its blue body scratched and weathered, encrusted with mud and clinging leaves. The lens was opaque with grime, a silent relic of someone's forgotten expedition, its presence jarring against the natural landscape. "Whoa, where did you find this?" Amir asked, kneeling beside Jake, his fingers brushing away dirt as he turned the camera over in his hands, his eyes narrowing with interest. "Hell if I know," Jake replied, brushing off debris, his tone a mix of curiosity and unease. "Just lying here in the mud. You can tell it's been out here a while." The brand name was faded, the plastic worn and pitted, as if the elements had waged a slow war against it. Bits of grass and dried leaves adhered to its surface, and a faint mildew scent rose from it, mingling with the earthy aroma of the clearing. Amir's fingers deftly pried open the battery compartment, his movements precise despite the dirt caked into the crevices. "Jackpot, there's a memory card here. The battery's dead, but maybe it still works." Sophia leaned in, her brow furrowing, her voice soft with concern. "How long has it been here? Where did it come from?" I crouched beside her, my eyes catching a faint carving at the camera's base. David Ellison. The name felt heavy, a whisper of a story we didn't yet understand. Maybe it belonged to a hiker, someone like David Ellison who got lost. I suggested, a shiver tracing my spine as I spoke the words aloud, the forest seeming to lean in closer. Jake pulled out his portable power bank, a small black device he'd always carried on our hikes. Its USB port's a lifeline in the wilderness. He connected it to the camera, coaxing life into the relic with a faint hum. The lens groaned as it extended, a slow, painful resurrection, the sound grating against the forest stillness like a wounded animal's cry. "All right, Mark, let's see what sort of secrets you hid from me," he muttered, a playful edge to his voice, though his eyes betrayed a flicker of unease. A strange sensation settled over me, a whisper that we were trespassing into forbidden territory, that this camera held more than just memories. It held a warning. But curiosity, that insatiable beast, won out, and we crowded around Jake, our breaths shallow, the air thick with anticipation. He powered on the camera, the small screen flickering to life with a grainy glow, and began flipping through the saved images. The first shots were mundane, the kind you'd expect from an amateur nature photographer with a love for the wild. Sunlight filtered through trees, casting golden beams that illuminated a carpet of pine needles. A close-up of a flowering vine wrapped around a fallen trunk, its petals a delicate purple against the decay. A deer stood in a grassy clearing, its antlers proud, eyes locked on the camera with a boldness that spoke of undisturbed solitude. "This Mark guy must be one hell of a photographer," Amir remarked, admiration in his tone as he leaned closer, his shoulder brushing against Sophia's. The images were serene, a snapshot of a hiker's journey through a forest much like the one we now stood in, a reminder of why we'd come, to reconnect with nature, with each other. But as Jake scrolled, the images darkened, the cheerful compositions giving way to chaos that felt like a descent into a nightmare. A disheveled campsite appeared, its tent collapsed, garbage strewn across the ground. Empty food wrappers, a torn sleeping bag, a shattered lantern. The fire pit's ashes were scattered, as if something had rampaged through, leaving destruction in its wake. Another image showed a muddy hiking boot, its laces torn, the sole caked with dirt, abandoned in the middle of a clearing. A third revealed a jumble of animal bones half buried in leaves, their ivory surfaces gleaming dully, the arrangement unnatural, as if placed there deliberately. "Okay, this is getting a little weird," Sophia said, crossing her arms, a chill seeming to settle over her despite the autumn warmth. Her voice trembled slightly, her eyes darting to the trees around us, as if expecting something to emerge from the shadows. The next image was a low-resolution night shot of thick woods, the branches twisting like something from a nightmare, their gnarled forms resembling skeletal hands reaching out. The camera's low light setting cast an eerie glow, the shadows deepening into an abyss that felt alive, pulsating with unseen menace. In the background, a dark, amorphous shape lurked at the frame's edge. Was it a boulder, a root ball, or something more sinister? I struggled to discern its nature, my pulse quickening, the forest around us seeming to mirror the image, its shadows lengthening as the sun dipped lower. "I don't like it, folks. It's creeping me out," Jake admitted, his voice quieter now, the playful edge gone. But his finger moved to the next image, as if compelled by the same morbid curiosity that held us all. The screen showed a ground-level view, the dirt and leaves disturbed by large, uneven impressions. Too big, too far apart to be human, their edges deep and jagged, as if something heavy had knelt there, waiting. Sophia shuddered, her breath hitching, and even Liam, usually unflappable, tensed, his jaw tightening. Jake's brow furrowed as he advanced to a close-up of a pine tree's base, its bark torn away in jagged grooves, fresh sap glistening beneath for uniform gashes. The marks were too precise to be natural, too deliberate to be the work of a bear or a storm, hinting at a terrifying force that had left its signature on the forest. The camera's memory neared its end, and we pressed closer, our breaths shallow, the air thick with dread. The next photo stole the air from my lungs. A near-black image, as if the lens cap had been left on, revealed a vague humanoid shape, twice Jake's height, its head crowned with pale, reflective eyes that caught the flash like a predator's gaze, glowing with an otherworldly hunger. The form was indistinct, shrouded in darkness, but its sheer size and the malevolence in those eyes sent a jolt of terror through me. "What the hell is that?" Amir whispered, his voice trembling, barely audible over the pounding of my heart. We stood frozen, the weight of the unknown pressing down, the forest around us suddenly alien, its beauty tainted by the horror on the screen. Jake's hands shook as he scrolled to the final image. A black void pierced by larger reflective spots, the blurry form now towering over 8 feet, its shoulders monstrously broad, its presence suffocating even through the grainy screen. The thing was closer, its eyes brighter, as if it had sensed the camera, sensed us. Jake nearly dropped the camera, his hands trembling so badly he could barely grip it. "I've seen enough," he said, yanking the memory card and pocketing it, his voice raw with fear. He powered down the camera, the screen going dark, but the image lingered in my mind, those eyes burning into my memory. "We need to get out of here," I said, my voice breaking the silence, a desperate edge to it I couldn't hide. Jake and Liam nodded, their faces pale, eyes wide with the same terror I felt. Amir stared at the blank screen, muttering, "What was that? What happened to Mark?" His voice was a hollow whisper, as if speaking too loudly might summon the thing we'd seen. Sophia tugged his arm, her nails digging into his sleeve. "I don't know, and I don't want to find out. Come on." We turned back to the trail, the bright autumn day now cloaked in an ominous pallor, the forest no longer a sanctuary but a labyrinth hiding unspeakable things. The trees thickened, their branches intertwining overhead, forming a tangled web that dimmed the sunlight, casting us into a twilight that felt unnatural for midday. Pleasant vistas vanished, replaced by an oppressive corridor of trunks, their bark rough and unyielding, their shadows stretching like grasping fingers. Our laughter faded, replaced by hushed tones, the crunch of twigs beneath our feet sounding deafening in the eerie stillness. The branches creaked above, a low groan that seemed to carry a warning, and I found myself glancing back, half expecting a shadow to emerge from the underbrush. Nothing was there, yet the sensation of being watched gnawed at me, a primal instinct screaming that we were no longer alone. Hours passed, our pace slowing as exhaustion set in, the physical toll of the trail compounded by the weight of what we'd seen. The forest grew denser, the air heavier, as if the trees themselves were conspiring to trap us. The trail, once clear, became overgrown, brambles snagging at our legs, forcing us to slow to a crawl. Jake called a halt, his voice strained. "Let's take a break and have some water," he said, dropping his pack onto a rock, the thud echoing in the stillness. We followed suit, collapsing onto the ground, massaging aching feet and gulping water, the cool liquid a small comfort against the growing unease. My boots felt like lead, the blisters forming on my heels a sharp reminder of how far we'd strayed from our carefree morning. "Any idea how much longer before we reach camp?" Amir asked, wiping sweat from his brow, his dark eyes searching Jake's face for reassurance. Jake unfolded his trail map, a crinkled sheet of paper marked with trails and landmarks, his sigh heavy with frustration. "I don't know. I thought we'd have hit it by now." Sophia's voice sharpened, her patience fraying. "You don't know how to get there? I thought you'd taken this way before." Her tone was accusatory, her hands on her hips, the stress of the day boiling over. Jake winced, his shoulders slumping. "Yeah, but that last fork might have thrown me off. Hold on. Let me figure it out." Liam peered over his shoulder, the map a cryptic puzzle of lines and symbols, his legal mind struggling to make sense of it. After a long pause, Jake folded it with a grimace, his voice low. "Sorry, folks. I've lost our way. We're off course." Amir's panic rose, his voice cracking. "We're way off course." His hands clenched into fists, his earlier calm replaced by a raw fear that mirrored my own. Jake tried to reassure us, his tone forced. "We're just a little turned around. If we head west, we'll hit something familiar." But the dense canopy obscured the sun, the light filtering through in weak, scattered rays, and the forest stretched endlessly in all directions, a green labyrinth with no discernible exit. Reluctantly, we followed his lead, spirits sinking with each step, the weight of our predicament settling like a stone in my chest. The trees pressed closer, their trunks gnarled and ancient, their branches interlocking above us, creating a tunnel of shadow that felt suffocating. An hour later, Sophia voiced the doubt we all felt, her voice trembling. "I don't think we're heading west anymore. We're just circling." Her words hung in the air, a bitter truth we couldn't ignore. A loud branch snap behind us jolted us, Sophia stifling a scream, her hand flying to her mouth. I spun, my heart pounding, expecting the nightmare from the photos to materialize, its pale eyes glowing in the dim light. But there was nothing, just more trees, their shadows deepening as the sun dipped lower, the forest transforming into a realm of twilight and terror. Jake raised his hands, his bravado crumbling. Okay, I guess we're disoriented." His admission was a crack in the facade of confidence he'd clung to, and I saw the fear in his eyes, a mirror to my own. Evening deepened, the shadows lengthening within the trees, their forms twisting into menacing shapes that seemed to watch us. Jake maintained his bravado, insisting he knew our location, but his tense shoulders betrayed him, the tight set of his jaw a silent confession of doubt. Fog snaked along the ground, brushing our ankles, its cold tendrils sending shivers up my spine. The forest fell into an unnatural silence. No rustling leaves, no chittering squirrels, no birdsong to break the oppressive quiet. Discomfort tightened my chest as we stayed close, jumping at every crack or rustle, the sounds amplified by our heightened senses. A movement flickered in my periphery, a shadow darting between the trees, and I spun, scanning the tree line, my breath catching. "Did any of you see that?" I asked, my voice trembling. Jake frowned, his flashlight clutched tightly. "What do you mean?" I nodded, pointing to a gnarled trunk. "Something moved behind that tree." Liam offered weakly, "Maybe a deer," but his tone lacked conviction, his eyes darting nervously to the shadows. We quickened our pace, desperate for a landmark before nightfall. Our footsteps hurried, the crunch of leaves a staccato rhythm in the silence. Branches snapped behind us, closer this time, and we whirled in terror, finding nothing but blackness, the forest an endless void of shadow and threat. "This is getting really weird," Sophia whispered, clutching Amir's arm, her nails digging into his sleeve, her face pale with fear. Jake's confidence waned, his voice softer. "We need to keep moving. We'll find something." But the trail eluded us, and soon, even the dim orange light of dusk faded, leaving us stumbling in pitch black, the forest a suffocating abyss. Jake flicked on his flashlight, its weak beam struggling against the shadows. casting a pale cone of light that illuminated little more than the ground at our feet. The forest seemed to close in, the trees looming like sentinels of some ancient, malevolent force, their branches outstretched like grasping fingers. Unfamiliar noises, groans, chuffs, growls, echoed around us, a cacophony of unseen threats that sent my heart racing. A high-pitched screech pierced the air, unlike any animal I'd ever heard, its shrill tones slicing through the night like a blade. Heavy footfalls circled us, the ground vibrating with their weight. And when they entered the light, Jake's face paled, his flashlight trembling in his hand. "Hey, whoever you are out there," Liam shouted, his voice cracking with fear. "Stay away!" A low growl answered, inches behind me, so close I could feel the heat of its breath, a rancid stench of decay washing over me. I whimpered, grabbing Amir and Sophia's hands. Certain death loomed, my mind flashing to the creature in the photos, its pale eyes hungry for us. The sounds lessened, relief washing over me, but the tension remained, a coiled spring ready to snap. Jake swung the flashlight wildly, finding no source, his movements frantic. "This cursed forest," Amir muttered, his voice a low growl, his hands clenched into fists. We shuffled forward, the noises, cracking, splintering, following, sometimes distant, sometimes uncomfortably close, a relentless reminder that we were being hunted. Shadows danced in my vision, vanishing when I turned, the flickering beam of the flashlight playing tricks on my mind. The blackness pressed in, alive with groans and snaps, sending us spinning with every sound, our nerves frayed to the breaking point. Slick sliding noises trailed us, shadowed shapes moving through the underbrush, their forms indistinct but heavy, shaggy bodies slipping through the foliage with an unnatural grace. Snorting breaths echoed beyond the light, surrounding us, goading us forward like prey driven toward a trap. Sophia's teeth chattered, her typically animated face drawn and colorless, her fingers digging into Amir's arm, knuckles white with fear. "We're going to freeze to death out here," she moaned, her voice barely above a whisper, the cold seeping into our bones as the temperature plummeted. Jake protested, his voice trembling. "No, we ain't." But the quiver in his tone betrayed him, his earlier confidence eroded by the night's terror. Something evil stalked us, its presence a palpable weight, and time lost meaning, each step a battle against despair. The forest was no longer a place of beauty but a living nightmare, its shadows alive with malice, its silence a prelude to violence. We stopped beside an immense oak, its trunk wide and ancient, its bark rough against my back as I sank to the ground, my feet burning in my boots, the blisters raw and throbbing. Water and trail mixed past without enjoyment, our senses alert, every rustle a potential threat. Leaning against the tree, my light caught odd scratches, harsh, ragged letters carved deeply into the wood. "Out." I staggered forward, my breath catching. "Hey, come look at this." Their lights joined mine, illuminating the ominous word, its edges fresh with sap, as if carved mere hours ago. Sophia gasped, her voice a choked sob. "We need to get out of here now." Liam's beam revealed more trees marked with phrases. "Watching you, it's beyond turning back. Don't look, get out or die." The words a hunter's taunt, a promise of violence etched into the forest itself. Panic seized us as Sophia screamed, collapsing in tears, her body shaking uncontrollably. Amir's gaze hardened, his jaw set. "There has to be a road. We need to keep looking." A loud crack behind us made us yelp, but only blackness greeted us, the forest an impenetrable void. Resolve hardened within me. I was done being prey, done with the paralyzing fear that had gripped us since the camera's discovery. I grabbed a branch from a young tree, its wood sturdy in my hands, and broke off the smaller twigs, fashioning a makeshift torch. "Does anyone have a match or lighter?" I asked, my voice steady despite the terror coursing through me. Jake dug into his pack, pulling out a disposable lighter, its plastic casing scratched from years of use, and ignited my torch's end, the flame casting an angry orange glow that drove back the shadows. "Toss me that lighter. Help me make more," I said, determination fueling my actions. Soon, we stood with blazing torches, the flickering light warming our cheeks, fanning the rebellious flame in my mind. We were not powerless, we would face this evil head-on. I waved my torch, shouting into the woods, "We know you're there, you son of a... Come get some!" My voice echoed through the trees, a challenge to the darkness, and my friends joined in, our yells growing hoarse, a chorus of defiance against the unseen predator. Sophia's sobs turned to silence, her jaw clenched, her eyes fierce with newfound resolve. For too long, only dead silence answered, the forest holding its breath, until heavy footfalls approached, deliberate and menacing, the ground trembling beneath their weight. A massive shape emerged from the shadows, its head nearing the treetops, its form a grotesque fusion of beast and nightmare. Muscled and shaggy, its lower body was ape-like, covered in matted fur, while its torso twisted unnaturally, arms dragging to taloned feet. A lupin head bore yellowed fangs, drool streaming from its open maw, thick ropes of saliva glistening in the torchlight. Its fur was scarred, old wounds crisscrossing its hide, dried grime matting its coat in clumps. The strangest, most unsettling feature was its eyes. Bright yellow, with perfectly round oval pupils, wide and hungry, glowing with an intelligent malice that marked it as a calculated predator, not a mindless beast. A rancid stench of spoiled meat and musk rolled off it, accompanied by a deeper, unplaceable decay that made my stomach churn. It leaped, its massive form hurtling toward me, jaws wide, and I thrust my torch into its face, the flames searing its fur as it screamed, a hellish sound that echoed through the night. We piled in, shouting in anger, our torches lashing out, the stench of burnt flesh rising as the creature staggered, its roars shaking the trees. It batted us away with massive claws, sending me crashing to the ground, stars dancing in my vision. But I rose, adrenaline fueling me. As it lunged at Liam, jaws wide, I grabbed a piece of deadfall, throwing it with all my might, striking its head and deflecting its path. Liam stumbled back, pale but uninjured, as we rallied, torches blazing, driving the creature back step by step. Sophia screamed as it slashed at her, tearing her shirt, but Amir brought his flashlight down on its arm, pushing it back, while I seared its hind leg, forcing it to collapse with a howl. Jake punched its sides, his fists a blur, as Sophia thrust her torch into its jaws, the flames scorching its maw. We pushed it back, its hide peeling, until it screeched in pain and slunk into the darkness, defeated. Panting, we watched the embers fade, battered but victorious, the weight of terror lifting from our shoulders. Sophia wept against Amir, her body trembling, while Liam stood in shock, eyes wide, mouth agape. Jake squeezed my shoulder, mirroring my exhausted grin. "We did it," he rasped, his voice raw. We ran, branches tearing at us, panic fueling our flight, the forest a twisted maze of shadow and threat. The sky was obscured, but we didn't stop, driven by the primal need to escape. The fiery ache in my chest and the rubbery weakness in my legs ignored in the face of survival. Liam halted us, and we collapsed, gasping, clinging to the ground, our bodies spent. Cold seeped into my bones. Liam's lips blue in the pale moonlight, the night's chill of final assault. Jake staggered up, his voice slurred with exhaustion. "We need to keep moving, the road must be near." His optimism teetered on hysteria, but we followed, the forest a relentless maze of tall trees and darkness. Jake's rasping encouragement kept us moving, his voice a lifeline against despair, and I clung to it, pain fading into a dull ache. Foliage thinned, revealing gray pavement, a road, our salvation. We stumbled out, relief flooding me, tears streaming down my face, until an explosion from the tree line spun us around. Yellow eyes flashed as the beast leaped, its massive form gaining fast, its roars thundering through the night. We ran, its talons raking my shirt, the fabric tearing as I stumbled forward, the road our only hope. Headlights blinded us, a park ranger's truck rumbling up, its engine a growl of hope. "Hey, over here!" we yelled, waving desperately, our voices hoarse. The ranger's alarmed face greeted us, his eyes wide at our disheveled state. "Jesus, please help us. There's something in the woods," Sophia sobbed, her words dissolving into tears. We piled in, some on the floor, as the ranger floored it, the truck lurching forward. A guttural roar erupted, the beast racing beside us, its warped face clear in the brake lights, a nightmare made flesh. The ranger sped around a corner, the howls fading, the town's glow approaching like a beacon of safety. Exhausted, I sagged against Liam, grateful, the concrete and light of civilization a sanctuary. The ranger muttered, "Sweet Jesus," as we babbled, sobs and laughter blending into a cacophony of relief. But closing my eyes, those yellow orbs lingered, a reminder that the nightmare wasn't over, that the forest held secrets we could never unsee. Have you ever felt the chill of the unknown stalking you in the dark? Would you dare to uncover the secrets hidden in the wilderness? Or would you flee at the first sign of terror?